Before we dive in, remember, facing the dark side of ourselves isn't easy. But if this video resonates with you, consider liking and subscribing. That way, we continue together on this journey of mirrors and truths no one wants to hear, but everyone needs.
You've been told to defend yourself, to explain, to justify, to prove you meant no harm. That's what good people do, right? But Machiavelli would smile, a quiet, dangerous smile, and tell you never defend yourself. Because every time you explain, you kneel. Every time you justify, you hand your power to whoever accused you. He knew that silence, when used right, can shift the balance of power faster than any argument ever could. This isn't a video about manipulation. It's about survival, psychological survival, in a world obsessed with perception, a world where control has replaced truth and silence has become a weapon disguised as peace. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the smartest minds and the most wounded souls use non-response not as pride, but as protection. Why Machiavelli's old trick has become the modern therapy of those who can't afford to look weak. But here's the part no one tells you. The longer you stay silent, the more the silence starts to speak back. Stay with me, because what begins as power might end as a prison.
The first rule of modern power isn't in any book. It's invisible, whispered through office walls, social feeds, and dinner tables. It says, never look weak. Never let anyone see you bleed, or doubt, or defend. And that's how Machiavelli found a second life, not in politics, but in psychology. His old tricks have been reborn in human form. People who confuse silence with strength, detachment with control. It's the gospel of our age, the gospel of control. We've learned to hide every bruise behind composure. We answer insults with posture, not honesty. Because in this world, whoever stays calm wins. Or at least, that's what we tell ourselves. We've made composure the new religion. Calm faces, neutral tones, perfectly timed pauses, all rehearsed like holy rituals. The world doesn't want your truth. It wants your management. We're taught to confuse emotional restraint with emotional mastery, as if silence were the same thing as wisdom. But behind that calm, there's usually panic, the quiet kind that eats your words before they reach your mouth. You tell yourself you're being strategic, when in truth, you're just terrified of losing control of the story. And once you believe that silence keeps you safe, you start using it like a drug. But stay long enough in that quiet, and you'll start to realize it's not peace, it's paralysis. But here's the catch. Every time you suppress the impulse to explain, something inside you tightens. It feels like power, but it's actually fear in disguise. The fear of being misread, the fear of being small, the fear of being seen. And yet you keep doing it, because control works for a while. It gives you the illusion of choice, the sense that you can shape what others think of you. But control always demands sacrifice. The first thing it asks for is your truth. The more you try to control perception, the less human you become. You start censoring your own thoughts before they even exist. You shape sentences for imaginary audiences, polish emotions for invisible critics. It feels like safety, but it's surveillance. You've turned the gaze of the world into your inner voice. And soon, you can't tell which thoughts are yours and which were trained into you. It's a subtle kind of self-erasure. You disappear without dying. And the scariest part? You'll call that disappearance maturity. You'll convince yourself that detachment is enlightenment. But deep down, something in you knows, this is not freedom. This is just control wearing the mask of peace. Stay with me. This is where the trap begins to show. You start to live like a strategist instead of a person. Every word becomes a move, every silence a weapon. You say less, but think more. You feel less, but calculate faster. You don't speak, you perform stillness. You don't listen, you read weakness. Soon, you're not protecting your peace, you're policing your emotions. And people start to notice. They don't see confidence, they see distance. They don't feel calm, they feel cold. They don't trust you, they obey you. But obedience isn't respect. It's the quiet form of fear. Machiavelli warned princes about this, even if he didn't mean to. When everything becomes strategy, humanity becomes noise. You stop hearing yourself. You'll see why this matters soon, because the same armor that protects you will soon start to crack from the inside.
There's a strange point in life when control stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like your only language. You no longer decide to stay quiet, you simply forget how to do anything else. You've mastered the art of the mask. Not the costume you wear in public, but the calm you perform, even when your heart is burning. The mask is polite, efficient, untouchable. It nods, smiles, breathes perfectly on cue. It knows when to speak and when to withhold. It survives every argument by never truly being in one. And people love it. They call it maturity, discipline, self-awareness. But they never notice the tremor underneath, the human inside, rehearsing how to seem composed. They see serenity, they don't see suppression. It's impressive, isn't it? How the same face that hides your fear also hides your life. How the image of peace can quietly strangle the person behind it. But stay with me. It gets darker. Because masks don't just hide, they merge. You wear them long enough and they start wearing you back. You wake up one day and realize you don't know how to stop performing calm, even when you're alone. You rehearse silence in the mirror. You correct your tone mid-thought. You manage your expression before pain even reaches your face. You are no longer protecting yourself, you're editing yourself. And maybe that's what Machiavelli would have wanted. Not peace, but predictability. Not authenticity, but advantage. He didn't tell you to understand yourself. He told you to understand how others see you. And you listened. Too well. But here's the paradox. The more perfectly you manage perception, the less anyone actually sees you. You become an image that works. A brand that breathes, a calm voice that doesn't belong to anyone. There's a moment, subtle but fatal, when silence stops being strength and becomes anesthesia. You start mistaking numbness for enlightenment, stillness for wisdom. And the worst part? The world rewards you for it. They say, "You're so composed." They mean you're so disconnected. They say nothing gets to you. They mean nothing reaches you. But that's not the whole truth, because something does reach you. It's just trapped behind the mask, echoing through the quiet. All the words you never said, all the emotions you never let out, they start building a storm behind the smile. And that storm doesn't go away. It waits. It listens. It grows stronger in the silence. Until one day, the mask doesn't fit anymore. Stay close, because when that mask finally cracks, it won't just reveal what's underneath, it'll reveal what you've become.
There comes a point when control stops protecting you and starts protecting itself. You built the walls to keep chaos out, but now the walls have become your skin. Every silence feels sacred, every distance feels safe. and you tell yourself you finally won. But if this is victory, why does it feel so empty? You see, power without peace is just tension wearing a crown. You might look calm on the outside, but inside everything is clenched. Jaw, voice, heart. You've traded expression for survival, and survival isn't living. You start living like a ghost in your own story. Every moment feels rehearsed, safe, sterile. Even joy becomes a risk assessment. Will this make me lose control? You smile because it's expected, not because it moves you. You rest, but never relax. There's a constant hum in your mind, like an engine that refuses to shut off, and you mistake that noise for purpose. Because the silence underneath it, the real silence, terrifies you. It reminds you that peace requires surrender, and surrender still feels like failure. You don't trust vulnerability anymore. You don't even trust relief, because relief would mean letting go, and you've built an identity around never letting go. There's a kind of madness that comes with mastery. You start believing you can outthink pain, outsmart emotion, outmaneuver your own longing. But pain doesn't negotiate. It just waits, patiently, until the moment you mistake silence for healing. And that's when it strikes, not from the outside, but from within, through insomnia, irritability, exhaustion that no amount of control can fix, through the quiet panic of realizing that the calm you've perfected isn't peace, it's absence. Stay with this thought. It matters more than it seems. Because the greatest illusion of power is that it isolates you from loss. But the truth is, it isolates you from life. When no one can hurt you anymore, no one can reach you either. That's the secret cost no strategist ever mentions. The stronger your armor, the lonelier the echo inside it. You hear everything, but nothing touches you. You're admired, even envied, but admiration is cold comfort when it can't warn you. And here's the tragedy Machiavelli never wrote about. The ruler who mastered control eventually becomes the prisoner of it. His own silence becomes the kingdom he can't escape. He stops being feared or loved. He's just observed. People study him like an artifact, polished, admired, untouchable. But power that can't be touched can't be felt either. And without feeling, there's no meaning left to protect. The kingdom becomes quiet, the throne colder every day. He rules over silence, yet serves it at the same time. That's the secret Machiavelli never confessed. Control doesn't make you invincible, it just makes you invisible. Stay close, because there's one move left in this game, and it's the only one that can still set you free. You'll see soon, that's the real heartbreak of control. It doesn't end in triumph. It ends in stillness. A beautiful, sterile stillness that feels like safety until you notice it sounds a lot like death. Every strategy eventually turns on its master, and Machiavelli's trick to never defend yourself was no exception. Because if silence can protect you, it can also erase you. But here's where the story flips. What if the real power isn't in never responding, but in learning how to respond without defending? It sounds simple, almost weak, right? To answer instead of attack, to speak instead of perform. But that's the kind of courage that control can't imitate. It's the moment when awareness replaces armor. See, the reverse strategy isn't silence, it's sincerity, delivered without apology. It's the quiet act of saying what's true, even when your voice shakes, even when the world interprets it as loss. You'll see soon, that's the shift that breaks the pattern. Because once you stop trying to win, no one can use your reaction against you anymore. When you speak from fear you feed the noise. When you speak from clarity, you end it. The difference is invisible to others, but unmistakable inside you. You don't need to dominate the conversation, you just need to stay awake inside it. To listen not for attack, but for projection. To realize most accusations are confessions in disguise. And once you see that, you don't need to retaliate. You just breathe, not to stay calm, but to stay conscious. That's what Machiavelli missed. He understood the mechanics of power, but not the medicine of it. Maybe that's why his advice survives, because we still confuse survival with wisdom. We inherit his armor and call it self-awareness. But what we really crave isn't dominance, it's dignity. The dignity of being able to speak without fear of being misunderstood. The dignity of showing your wounds without turning them into tools. That's the revolution the manuals never mention, power that doesn't depend on performance. You don't need to win people's eyes anymore, only your own honesty. And once you see yourself clearly, even rejection feels like freedom. Because the point isn't to escape vulnerability, it's to endure it without turning it into strategy. That's where power becomes presence. Try this. Next time someone misunderstands you, don't explain, don't defend, just respond from stillness. Say what is true for you once, then stop. Let silence finish the sentence. At first, it will feel like weakness, but stay with it, because that's not weakness you're feeling. It's withdrawal from an addiction, the addiction to control, to approval, to being right. And on the other side of that withdrawal comes something you haven't felt in a long time: peace. Not the peace of being untouched, but the peace of being whole. It's quiet at first, almost unsettling. You'll want to fill it with noise, prove that you've changed, that you've grown. Don't. Let the stillness breathe through you, because that's not emptiness, it's return. The return to the part of you that never needed control to feel safe. And if you listen closely, you'll hear something you haven't in years. Your own voice, untrained, unfiltered, unmistakably alive. Stay with that sound. It's the beginning of everything you were trying to protect.
The mirror never lied. It only reflected what you were ready to see. At first, it showed the strategist, calm, unreadable, untouchable. But every silence left a fingerprint. Every withheld word left a shadow. And one day, the reflection began to change. You expected to see a ruler. Instead, you saw the prisoner. The one who built an empire of control and called it peace. But the cracks, the ones you tried to polish away, they were never flaws. They were openings, places where light could finally get in. Now the mirror breathes again. It no longer flatters or protects. It reveals, and what it reveals isn't perfect. It's human. No armor, no mask, no audience to impress. Just you, raw, present, unstrategic. For the first time, silence isn't hiding you. It's holding you. Stay here for a moment. Let the quiet touch you back. Because this is where every game ends and something real begins. The wound doesn't speak to win. It speaks to be seen. If this moved something inside you, stay. We're building something for those who don't fake it. Subscribe, not just for the content, but for the confrontation. And if this left a wound, maybe it was meant to. Sometimes the best way to go deeper is to share the pain. Share it. You don't need to keep playing the strategist. You've already learned what the silence was hiding. It was never about winning. It was about remembering that you were never a pawn. Power was never the absence of feeling. It was the courage to feel without performing it. So, if you felt yourself soften while watching this, don't tighten again. Stay open. Stay human. Because the world doesn't need another mask. It needs witnesses. People who dare to see and still stay.